It's the realest.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your guy Realistic, and welcome to my tutorial vault. That's right, I'm gonna start grabbing some of my most classic tutorials over the years out of the vault and re-releasing them. That way y'all can enjoy, get your mixing and mastering skills back up. So if you find any of the information useful, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. That way this keeps showing up in your feed, and sit back and enjoy the content. So let's start diving into these basic tools that you're going to need for mastering. But first, just a little disclaimer here, because I know I'm going to be having some engineer snobs and some know-it-alls in the comment section that are going to be triggered by the fact that we're just doing some basic tools here. So I want to start out by saying I love stuff like linear phase EQ. I love to apply oversampling. I'm big on imagers and soft clipping and low end focus. All of that I'm big fans of, but I wanted to do a quick tutorial on just some basic stuff that you need, you know, the bare essentials. If anybody's interested in learning how to master or better their skills at mastering, at least they know what they absolutely need to start out with, and also to show them that more than likely they already have the tools. And I always want to let people know that, you know, you don't need to have tons of, you know, thousands and thousands of dollars worth of analog gear and thousands of dollars worth of plugins. I do think that analog gear does sound nice and does make a difference, but I don't think that needs to be your entry level to master records. So now with that being out there, we can start to dive in, and hopefully now that we know that, people won't be triggered by the fact that we're just doing some basic stuff here. So the three things that I think that the bare essentials that I think that you need to have when it comes to mastering, right? These are the basic tools that I think that you're going to need to have. One is a limiter, right? It makes a lot of sense that we have a limiter. The other one here is a bus compressor. I think that we need some type of bus compression in there. And then the last one here is an EQ here, right? I think those are the three tools that we're absolutely going to need when it comes to mastering, right? We're going to need something to kind of, you know, control the dynamics a little bit here and glue things together. We're going to need some stuff to be able to polish or enhance some areas, and then a limiter to bring up the overall volume while limiting the maximum output there. Now, I will add in a fourth one, and if this wasn't available as a free plugin, I wouldn't have actually put it on the list, because I do want to keep this list to just things that are available to you no matter what you have, even if all you have is stock plugins. But the last one is, I think a LUFS meter is really important. If you have Pro L2 by FabFilter, you already do have a LUFS meter here built in there. But if you don't, if you're just using, like, if you're in Ableton or Logic or Fruity Loops, and all you have is the stock limiter, don't worry. There is this LUFS meter here called U-Lean loudness meter here. So I'll put a link in the description below for you to be able to get your hands on this. Like I said, it's free, so it's no cost at all to you. So those would be the basic tools that you need to have. As far as additional ones in our course, The Art of Mastering, we go over everything that you're going to need to know. I mean, we touch on things like soft clippers. We go over the whole ozone chain here and talk about exciters and imagers and low end focus, and we even go over multi-band compression, and we just go over a bunch of different tools. We go over codecs and stuff like that, and different formats. Those are all things that we go over in The Art of Mastering. But again, this is just kind of our basic things that we need to have to start out with. So what I'll do here is I'll kind of just show you how to use a little bit of each one here. So what we'll do here is I usually like to, you know, get our overall volume up. I know some people like to do it, you know, the other way, where they apply this last and get everything going. But I actually like to hear how the changes are going to sound after it's louder, because that's going to be the final version that people hear. So it's just, to me, it makes more sense that, you know, I can EQ and compress into the limiter, since that's going to be the final result anyway. So basically here, what we're going to do, you know, we just kind of raise the overall volume up here.
No rush, no worries, no problem, so fresh.
And then on this plugin here, it's called the output, but on most limiters is going to be called the ceiling here. So this just kind of sets our maximum output here. And this is, I have this here set at -1 dB. That's normally where I set it, just because when I went on Spotify's artist page, they recommend that there's 1 dB of headroom, so that's just why I set this to 1 dB of headroom, since the final version of this is going to be streaming anyways. And then we have a release control right here, and this basically just sets how fast the limiting will stop after the signal falls below the actual ceiling here. We got with shorter times, we'll get a louder, punchier sound, and with longer release times, we're going to be able to have a cleaner sound, less chance of distortion. Now, most limiters don't actually have an attack parameter, but this one does, so I'll just kind of tell you what that does here. The attack parameter works with the release. It's not like a compressor. We're used to seeing attack and release where they're independent of each other, but on this one, the attack actually works with the release here, and it just kind of sets how fast the release behavior will set in. And the last thing that we have here is the look ahead. It basically just tells the limiter here how fast to respond to sudden peaks. The further that the longer that we set this up, the further in the future that the limiter can look ahead, and then be able to make kind of predictions of what's going to be able to happen. And so with longer look ahead times, we can actually get a cleaner sound, but with shorter ones, again, we can get a louder sound. So it's just kind of always a give and take of we can get louder going this way, same with the release, or if we go the other way, not as loud, but we get a cleaner sound. We also have true peak limiting here. Again, not all limiters have this, but it is really nice to have. This just ensures that the peaks will match the output when it's converted to analog. And then also oversampling. I'm big on oversampling. We won't dive too much into that because I just want to keep this to basic things. But oversampling, what that will do is it will reduce aliasing. Aliasing is a bad unwanted distortion that gives unwanted artifacts that we don't want to deal with. Okay, so let's kind of dial in some things here.
No rush, no worries, no problem. So fresh, so fly, so poppin', moving quick, fast, baby, hold on. A lot of pain, I know you wanna close the door on. You paint the bright sky like a Van Gogh, and play my heartstrings like a banjo. Shots, baby, shots like you're using up the ammo. No rush, no worries, no problem. So fresh, so fly, so poppin', moving quick, fast, baby, hold on. A lot of pain, I know you wanna close the door on. You paint the bright sky like a Van Gogh.
All right, next thing here is I kind of want to dial in some bus compression. And as far as kind of what I'm doing, as far as the chain goes, I start with bus compression. I got some other things in my chain, but just off the basic tools that we're going with is I'll go bus compression, EQ, and then the final absolute last thing I have is a limiter here, right? That's the chain if we're just going off of the actual basic tools. I do have, like I said, a lot of things in between, but you can see that more in the art of mastering here. So what I'll do is here is, now that we got a volume set here for our limiter, I'll go to the actual bus compressor here, and we'll dial in some settings here. Some important things to kind of notice here is when it comes to bus compression, I like to do a slower attack time. That way it doesn't hurt the transients. If we do too fast of an attack time, we can risk damaging the transients. Faster attack times, I think that's better on individual tracks when we're actually mixing, like a vocal or a bass line or something like that. But as far as the overall track, we have things that we have to take into account, like drums and other things like that. So I don't want to risk damaging the transients there. So I'm going to go with a slower attack time. And then release time, I usually do a medium release time on that. I don't want to go too slow to where I'm over compressing and the compression is lasting too long, and I don't want to go too fast to where we start to feel a pumping feeling. So I'm going to set that to medium here. And then ratio, usually, again, when it comes to mastering, I usually do 2:1. If I was going to do an individual vocal, I would choose a completely different setting. But for this one, I'm going to choose 2:1. And basically, the ratio is just going to tell it, the amount of dB going in versus the amount of dB going out. That's where we get the ratio 2:1. So when we have this set to 2:1, for every 2 dB of audio that's going into the compressor, we have 1 dB that's going to exit the actual compressor here. Same with 4-1. If we were to set that, there would be 4-1 going in, and then 1 dB. It would be 4 dB going in, and then 1 dB going out of it. So I usually set that to 2-1. And then the other thing too here is we got a little sidechain filter, which I'm really big on. And this right here will just tell the compressor to ignore these low end frequencies. Sometimes low ends like 808s and kick drums, it can be really powerful. And maybe we don't want those to impact the compressor because we don't want that to trigger the compressor and start compressing down. So I usually like to set that somewhere between 60 and 80. So for this one, we'll kind of meet in the middle right there. And then the last thing here is we got our makeup gain. And so when we're compressing, we're kind of, compressing the signal down. So this allows us to make up the gain that we lost through compression. So actually, let's dial in some settings. I'll set this back to where this stuff was, and then we'll kind of dial this in as we're listening.
No rush, no worries, no problem. So fresh, so fly, so poppin', moving quick, fast, baby, hold on. A lot of pain, I know you wanna close the door on. You pick the bright sky like a Van Gogh, and play my heartstrings like a banjo. Shots, baby.
And then as far as the threshold here, all I'm doing here is just kind of setting it to, I get an average of 2 to 3 dB of gain reduction. Again, this is mastering. We've had a chance during the mixing process, or the engineer at least had a chance during the mixing process to go crazy with the compression. So when we're doing on our master channel, we want to do a lighter compression. There's really no need to start doing things like -4, -6 dB of gain reduction on a master channel. That's definitely way too much. So we got that set here, and then as far as EQ here, what we'll do is we'll just kind of clean some things up. We don't want to overdo it, right? We don't want to do things where, like, let's say we have to boost by 5 dB and then cut by like 6 dB or something like that. That's too much. If you do feel the need to do that, if you're the one that mixed it, maybe go back to the mix and address those issues that you're hearing on the individual channels. Or if not, feel free to reach out to the mix engineer. If you're just hired on to do the master, reach out to them, let them know some of the issues that you're running into, and if they could adjust that, because you definitely don't want to be overdoing too many of your cuts or boosts. As far as if you do got to reach out to an engineer and something like that, if you're concerned about hurting their ego or offending them or something, one of the ways I always like to put it is I always like to say, hey man, working on mastering the mix right now. Mix sounds great. I just noticed that once I applied a limiter on it, this is sticking out a little bit more than we originally thought it was in the mix. These things are tricky. It's kind of hard to predict sometimes when you put a limiter on. Sometimes things kind of pop out a little bit more than we thought. And then I just kind of let them know after that what it is, if we could turn it down. That way, it's a good way so they don't feel defensive or that you're attacking their mix or saying it's a bad mix. You're just letting them know, hey, now that a limiter's applied, we're hearing some different results. So again, if you do hear anything to where you feel like you need to do these drastic cuts like that, always suggest just kind of going back to the mix and fixing that. And another thing I do is, I don't know if you can do this on the stock EQs, but just in case you have this EQ or something else that allows you to do that, I always set, when it comes to mastering, I always set the graph to be 6 dB. You can do like 30 dB. And the thing is look at this. This doesn't look like a big cut, but because it's shrunk down. But that's already almost 3 dB that we're cutting. So what I like to do here is I like to set the graph to 6 dB. That way, when I do pull down, this looks like a huge cut. We're not even at a dB. That way, it just kind of prepares my brain mentally to just do subtle cuts and stuff like that. And that's kind of the big thing I want to show you with EQs when we're mastering, is we want to do subtle cuts here, right? Or subtle boost, either one, whatever we're doing. We just want to kind of do little subtle ones to kind of go in there and make some changes. A few things, and it's not a necessity. We'll keep this to basic, but if you do have, because I know like Ableton's EQ8, I know has mid-side capabilities, so I'm really big on mid-side. EQ when it comes to mastering, because it can really give you a lot more control. Mid allows you to control everything that's just going right down the center of the mix, and then side is everything that's on the sides, the stereo field, the left and right channels of things that are panned. So then we can control those separately. Another thing I'm really big on is dynamic EQ. Unfortunately, I don't think there's any stock plugins that really allow you to do dynamic EQ, but basically what dynamic EQ is it allows you to be able to EQ and compress just an actual specific frequency that you're working on. So for instance, this one here, we're at about 3,000. I know it's not exact, we don't need to be exact technical on that, but we're at about 3,000. So with dynamic EQs, not only are we going to attenuate at this area here, but we're also going to be able to compress just this frequency down. So this isn't going to compress the whole spectrum, right? This is only just going to compress down this actual specific frequency that we're working on there. But again, with this being basic mastering tips here, if you don't have access to a dynamic EQ, don't let that discourage you to not at least learn how to start mastering and practice and get your feet wet. Eventually, though, I think a dynamic EQ is a really useful thing when it comes to mastering and mixing as well. So what we'll do here is we'll just kind of polish some things up here.
No rush, no worries, no problem. So fresh, so fly, so poppin'. Close the door on. You pick the bright sky like a Van Gogh and play my heartstrings like Van Gogh and play my heartstrings like a band. Baby, no rush, no worries, no problem. So fresh, so fly, so poppin'. Moving quick, fast, baby, hold on. A lot of pain, I know you wanna close the door on. Baby, shots like you used. No rush, no worries. Wanna close the door on. You pick the bright sky like a Van Gogh and play my so fly, so poppin', moving quick, fast, baby, hold on. A lot of pain, I know you wanna close the door on. You pick the bright sky like a Van Gogh and play my heartstrings like a banjo. Shots, baby.
Cool, and you see we didn't really make too many changes right there. I just kind of, cleaned some areas up that kind of had a little resonant bump there, and we definitely get more into what all of that means in our new course, The Art of Mastering, and some areas too where there might have been some harshness and some low-end buildup there, and then I just kind of boosted a little bit in the sub area. I felt like that could have used a little more body, kind of enhance the sides of the high-end frequency just to kind of add a little bit of perceived loudness. And then you can see I already had just a little bit of a cut in here, and this low cut here is just at 20 hertz here, just to kind of get rid of some low-end rumble. And then I always usually do a side cut with a high pass filter just to cut off the low end of the sides that we don't necessarily need, because usually kicks and 808s, there's not too much side information in that lower end area right there. So yeah, these are just kind of like the basic things that you're going to need when it comes to mastering, just kind of the basic tools. Again, they are bus compression, EQ, and a limiter, and then also to just some type of LUFS meters just to be able to measure the actual overall loudness. LUFS stands for loudness unit full scales, and these loudness units here are used to be able to really help you with the perceived volume. They do a much better job to be able to tell you the overall perceived volume than a VU or an RMS meter will do. And so that's just kind of why they use that for both broadcasting and streaming these days. And so we have full video on kind of what to shoot for when it comes to LUFS. We actually have a video called LUFS Explained. So if you want to know more about LUFS, I actually have a video that you can click on at the top of the video. I'll also put it in the description below in case you want to know more about LUFS and how they work. And also we go over what to shoot for, right? And how to be able to achieve that. As far as like little bonus things that if you have the tools, I would say, other things that I think would probably be important would be multi-band compression, right here to just be able to compress individual frequency areas by themselves instead of the whole area. And then also some type of saturation that can definitely help with the overall perceived loudness, to be able to just kind of add a little bit more energy and trick the ear into thinking that it's louder. So those would be 2 additional bonus basic tools. But yeah, these are some basic tools to think that if you have these, you'll be able to get in there and start mastering and be able to get a great sounding master if you know how they work. And that's always another thing that I encourage people. If you don't have the money to go and buy fancy plugins or gear, you're already going to have, if you have a DAW, you're going to have stock plugins. The most powerful thing that you can do is learn how to use every single one of these things. Learn how an EQ works, learn how a compressor works, learn how a limiter works. And I promise you, if you know how those things work and you really know what to listen for and you know how to, execute, no matter what your tools are, you're going to be able to beat anybody that has a bunch of tools but doesn't know what they're doing. So it's always good to know what the tools are. And also too, if you're interested, we do have a video on YouTube. I'll put it right at the top here and a link in the description below. But it's 5 things that I do on every single master, and you don't need any tools to be able to do that. It's just basically, how to critically listen and analyze what you're going through, things as far as watching an analyzer and stuff like that. So these are all things that you can apply regardless of what your stuff is. So again, I'll have that at the top of the screen right there, and hopefully this helps out. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch this tutorial. If you found it useful, be sure to like and subscribe because it does help the channel grow. When you like a video, it tells YouTube that you liked it and maybe other people will like it as well. And also be sure to check out my online mixing and mastering courses, the art of beat mixing, the art of vocal mixing, and the art of mastering, all available now. And if this video was helpful and you're looking for other videos, you can watch a video here, here, and here. All right, until next time, y'all.